Is 7 wins enough for Hugh Freeze to keep his job? Or is the old ball coach out of here if he doesn't win 8? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the World Rapport. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for giving us a listen today. Joining me, as he does every week, is Jacob Goins, host of On the Line Sports Talk on 106.7. Jacob, it is spring practice. It doesn't feel like it. You and I have been talking basketball for the last few weeks. Auburn basketball, their run unceremoniously came to an end in the Final Four. We're going to talk about some news with Auburn basketball later in this segment. But I want to start with football. Like I said, spring practice is in full swing. It culminates in a couple days in Jordan-Hare Stadium for A-Day. Hasn't felt like much. Coaches have de-emphasized the importance of spring practice so far. Hugh Freeze has done it. He's not the only coach in the SEC that's done it. But we've gotten some interesting news out of spring practice. One, Deuce Knight seems to be well ahead of schedule. Jackson Arnold is having a great camp. Damari Alston is tearing it up. Alvin Henderson looks mature for his years so far. Exciting news on offense to hear so many good things happening. The wide receivers are wide receivering, man. Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, Horatio Fields, Perry Thompson, all those guys look great. So if you're Hugh Freeze, given how this looks, this comment was asked on our Wednesday night show. I wanted to ask it to you. Is 7 wins acceptable? Does Hugh Freeze get another year if he only wins 7 games? I'm telling you, we took a look at the schedule, and I'm not so sure.
Well, look, the schedule is difficult at the start. It's almost flipped from a year ago, right? Where the entire narrative last year was, okay, you have 5 games in a row, get off to a hot start. You've got Oklahoma in there, you've got Cal in there. Like, you have all these games at home to get off to a hot start before the month of October, where you weren't going to play a game at home the entire month of October. So last year, if you remember, it was get off to a hot start, survive October, and then win in November. Well, Auburn didn't do any of that. You got beat at home in September, you lost in October, and you kind of survived in November. And so you look at the schedule this year, Mike, and the first 5 games are brutal. You got to go to Baylor on a Friday night. You have to go to Norman, to Aggieland, get a bye week, and then you have Georgia coming home for your first big home game of the season. A couple of cupcakes in there as well. And so right now it seems like the idea is, okay, survive the first 5 weeks of the season, get some wins. You're going to have to win some games on the road. And then October, November, you're feeling pretty good about what Auburn could do down the stretch. But that's just the schedule part of it. We're talking about the team part of this and the talent that is on this roster on both sides of the football. And this is year 3. This is what Hugh Freeze has been asking for since day one that he got on the Plains is, let me get to year 3. Let me get my guys. Let us catch up in talent, because Auburn had to catch up. And then you're going to be excited and you're going to see what we can do. Well, here you go. You got year 3. You've got the best roster that Auburn's had in quite some time on both sides of the ball. And so is 7 wins enough? No, it's not, in my opinion. 7 wins is a major disappointment in year 3 in 2025 if that's how this thing plays out. I don't care if it's because of the schedule. I don't care if it's because of injuries, which everybody deals with. You can't use that as an excuse anymore. Coaching malpractice, whatever the case may be. 7 wins is not enough. And I think if you go 7-5 and only get 7 wins and you start losing, or I guess I should say continue losing games to your rivals like Georgia and Alabama, Hugh Freeze could see the door, which is crazy. But at what point do you pull the plug if you don't see something change on the field?
Let's go back to the schedule. By the way, I'm impressed with your memory of the schedule.
Did I get it right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You open it with Ball State September 6th, right? And you got Baylor, August 29th. Then you get Ball State and South Alabama, and then Oklahoma. That's going to be an interesting game with Jackson Arnold facing off against his former school. And then you get Texas A&M and Georgia. Those are your first 6 games. Jacob Goins from On the Line Sports Talk. Give me a record through the first 6 games give me a prediction. And if you're going to win more than 7, I guess, what do you have to do here? What do you have to do in these first 6 games? If you're listening to this on podcast or on YouTube, in the chat, hit the chat. Let me know what you think these first 6 games look like. Baylor, Ball State, South Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, that's really tough because the only big game, again, that you get at home is Georgia. You get, of course, Ball State, South Alabama will give you those 2 wins, right? Hopefully. And so you are looking at the other 4, and it's like, okay, you open up with Baylor, which is now on a Friday night for fans that have forgotten. That's
in
a
Waco.
Friday night game in Waco, okay, against a pretty good Baylor team, I think, an improved Baylor team. Then you go to Oklahoma, who nobody has any idea what they're going to be this year because they were so banged up last year that you didn't get a good read, especially on the offensive side of the football. New quarterback, trying to get healthier, things like that. Then you've got Texas A&M, who, again, is another wild card. But you have to go to Aggie Land. You've got to go to Kyle Field, where 110,000 people are going to be screaming their heads off. Then you get a bye, and you have Georgia walking into Jordan-Hare Stadium, a team that Hugh Freeze is yet to beat. Can't even remember what the record is in the last several years against Georgia. 0-4 is what Auburn is. So in that span, if you want this season to go well, which I think has to be 8 wins or more, I mean, you've got to beat Baylor on opening night. You have to get your cupcake games out of the way, and you've got to be able to win another game on the road. And so I'm saying 4-2.
Okay.
If you can go 4-2 in that stretch, however that may be, whether it's beating Baylor, beating Georgia, beating one of the other 2 on the road, or going however you do it, I think 4-2 is what you have to do in those 6 games, because then the rest of the schedule's not bad at all. Missouri's in there, Kentucky's on there, Arkansas. I mean, nobody's scared to go to Fayetteville. Let's be honest. I mean, that part of the schedule's not bad. You've just got to survive. 3-3, starting to worry. 2-4. Things are off the rails, and Hugh Freeze could be fired after the Georgia game if they go 2-4.
Okay, so I want to state for our listeners, especially on pod, if you're not watching this on YouTube, 4-2, right? That means you beat Baylor and you win at least 1 out of your first 3 SEC games.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I don't think you can go over in that first 6 games in conference play. Oklahoma, Texas, Georgia, right now. Given what we've seen from Auburn football, I wouldn't say any of those teams are a lock. Georgia is certainly going to be better than Auburn. Texas A&M and Oklahoma aren't necessarily better, but Auburn has found ways to lose games since Hugh Freeze has been on the Plains, and you've got to find a way to go on the road and get a win in back-to-back weeks there. Now, you do have an open date between Texas A&M and Georgia. You got your first bye week there. So they play on September 27th, Texas A&M, and then on October 11th, you play Georgia in Jordan-Hare. So you've got 4 home games in the first. No, I'm sorry. You only have 3 home games. You're 3-3, right? Waco, Norman, and College Station, and then the others at home. 2 cupcakes at home, though. But man, whew, boy, this is all the meat is in the first half of the schedule.
Yep.
So you got to take care of business. You have to come out, at the very least, I think you just have to come out over 500, which is exactly what you're talking about. It's 4-2. Right?
If you want to compete, if you want to compete and not be stressing down the stretch and not have to have a must-win game against Missouri or a must-win game against Kentucky and Jordan-Hare, like if you don't want to have that pressure, I mean, if you survive and you go 4-2, you take care of business in October, early November, then you've got Alabama in the Iron Bowl. I mean, you're talking about that game could come down to a 9, possibly 10-win season if you do what you're supposed to do early. That's a big ask, but it's a possibility if you can get out of the gates quickly if you're Auburn.
Yeah, I will tell you this. Last year when Oklahoma came to the Plains early in the season, I did the Paul Feinbaum show with my good friend Nathan King from 247. And while we were waiting for our segment, John Cohen went up. And he was doing figurative and literal backflips, explaining why these first 2 years have been rough for Hugh Freeze. He talked about player attrition. You know, it's so funny to me how many excuses you get, how long the leash is, when it's their hire.
Yeah.
Right. And this was Cohen's hire. This is the hire that decides whether he continues on or not. Hiring and firing football coaches is the primary function of the athletic director at Auburn University. So he hired Hugh Freeze. They tried to sell to us with all the Lane Kiffin drama that Hugh was the guy the whole time. Cap, I'm not buying it. Not buying it. So it will be interesting to see what he sounds like in that Georgia game. I'm sure Feinbaum's going to come right on back, and I'm going to sit down with him, and I'm going to be right before Cohen goes up again. Does that tone start to change a little bit if Auburn starts under 500 in that stretch? Let's talk about the next stretch here. So after the Georgia game, you got Missouri at home. You've got Arkansas on the road. You've got Kentucky at home. You've got Vanderbilt on the road. You've got Mercer at home, and you've got Alabama at home. This is a much more manageable stretch. Outside of Alabama, I think Auburn should be able to clean the next 5.
I'll put Alabama in there, Mike. I think Auburn should win every single one of those games. If you want this, clean it up. Yeah, you got. Right. And think about this: you're 4-2. You win 6 games. You're 10-2. You're in a playoff conversation as a dark horse, Mike. Things could get wild in year 3, but the problem is we haven't been able to have those. I'm not calling them gimme wins because there aren't such things in the SEC, but it's not crazy to say that year in and year out, Auburn should beat Missouri. Auburn should beat Arkansas. Auburn should beat Kentucky and Vanderbilt. I'm sorry. Auburn is a better football program than those guys. You should be better than them every single year, and that starts right now in year 3 under Hugh Freeze. If he wants to be taken seriously, if he wants his career to go forward here at Auburn, you have to win those games. And you get through the brutal 6-game stretch to start. You clean slate all the way to the Iron Bowl, and that's what I was talking about. That's the difference in a 9 or 10-win season and doing it by beating your rival for the first time in the Hugh Freeze era. You have a chance to do something really special this year if Auburn can get up off the mat and do what they need to do.
Yeah, look, I'm interesting that you're throwing Alabama in there. Look, I told the world, weirdly enough, on the Feinbaum show that this was Kalen DeBoer's Alabama is not Nick Saban's Alabama. They are much less formidable. They are not as scary, and there's no aura around them. Zero aura, Jacob, around Alabama football now that Nick Saban is gone. So, and you're looking at the back half of this schedule. Although you mentioned that they could clean the last 6, you don't want to have to. And if you go 500 in those first 6 games, you're going to have a run like South Carolina had last year at the end of their season that people were talking about South Carolina like, hey, should these guys make the playoff?
Yeah.
And I just don't. You don't want to be there. You don't want to have just need that magical run. I think there's a lot of pressure on the players. I don't think they particularly dealt with pressure well in Hugh Freeze's tenure. As a matter of fact, it's just been, if you've been to these games, it's just been fans sitting there clenching, waiting on the thing to go wrong.
Yeah, you're waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, and it's been happening, dude. I don't know what to say about this. I think that this is, despite what we think about the first 6 games, this is actually a favorable schedule in a sense that not a lot of these teams on this schedule look daunting or unbeatable. Outside of Georgia, who looks like a monster on Auburn's schedule this year? The answer
I don't
is
see one.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody looks like a monster, Jacob.
It's just the road games. I mean, it really is having to go to Norman and College Station early. Right. It's having to play Alabama at the end of the year, but it's at home. I mean, and again, nobody's worried about going to Fayetteville. Auburn has dominated in that stadium. Like there's nothing scary about the schedule after Georgia. You survive the first 6, you clean the last 6, and Auburn should be in a really, really good spot, which is why there's no excuse to not have at least 8 wins, if not more, in 2025 for Auburn.
Yeah. I agree. So now give me a prediction, sir.
No.
You're way too early prediction.
It's early.
Yeah, what's the record right now? Let's assume Jackson Arnold is the guy.
Okay.
And let's say Jackson throws for over 20 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions, and 3,000 yards.
Okay.
What's Auburn's record?
If that is the case, I think Auburn realistically right now in April 8-4. I think 8-4 is a manageable guess right now because that's a stat line from Jackson Arnold that is good, not great. That means you're hoping that the running back by committee with Alston and Cobb and guys like that have put up a good season. You've got some dudes making plays on the outside, and the defense is still solid like it was a year ago. That's a good starting point is 8-4. You get a win on the road. Let's be realistic. Probably one of your first three, whether it's Baylor, Oklahoma, or Texas A&M, you get one of those. You're going to have to beat somebody you're not supposed to, whether that's Georgia or Alabama. And then again, take care of business against the Missouris, the Kentuckys, and the Vanderbilts of the world. And so I'll say 8-4 for now, and that needs to be the bottom line for Auburn.
8-4. All right. I like it. I think that is – look, if we're saying 7 wins spells disaster, 8-4, there's a razor thin margin between what is an acceptable season and what's not for Hugh Freeze. Yeah. I think if you look at last season, it was clear that they had a ceiling 3 games higher than where they finished.
Sure.
Right. 3 to 4 games higher. This is a team that could have won 9 games last year with some competent coaching and better quarterback play in spots.
Well, that's the thing. I don't trust this staff yet. I don't trust Hugh Freeze yet. What has he shown us in 2 years that gives us confidence that they can make decisions to win games in the clutch?
Yeah.
We haven't seen it. We've yet to see it. And so that 8-4 prediction is more of, I have to see it to believe it, which is an old saying, but it applies perfectly here. Show me something, and that could change in the first 4 or 5 games. I may change that prediction, but if you go and get slaughtered by Baylor, if you blow it against Oklahoma and can't keep up with Texas A&M, then yeah, you're in trouble. But if the staff can prove that they have figured it out, then that may be a different conversation.
Indeed. Look, it's going to be compelling stuff going into the summer here. I believe Ashton Daniels arrives on campus here this summer. Deuce Knight and Jackson Arnold have owned the spring. Good news for Hugh Freeze, not having to split reps with a bunch of quarterbacks. Just focus on the guys that you have. Focus on the guy that's your apparent future in Deuce Knight, and focus on Jackson Arnold, who is and I want to make sure I'm clear about this. I'm going to say this till I'm blue in the face because people are going to say otherwise. No matter what I say, Jackson Arnold is the undisputed starter of this team.
Yes.
As he should be. Yes. I think that I do not endorse throwing a freshman to the wolves. I think Deuce Knight, as it turns out, coming in, people were telling me, hey, Deuce is a project, Jacob. They said he was a project. And now it may be he's less of a project than we thought, but with all the talent that Alabama got during Nick Saban's tenure, we never really saw him start true freshman.
Yeah.
Never happened. Tua is the only example we have of that, really. And he didn't start the year. He took over late in the season.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of injuries.
Yeah. Right. So I'm just in my mind, I'm thinking there's no plausible scenario where you can say things are going okay, where you're switching to Deuce Knight as quarterback midseason, and it's not a disaster.
Yeah. I mean, if that happens, it's because Jackson Arnold gets hurt or he just flames out or whatever the case may be. I think
laid a massive egg.
Correct. Yes,
right.
Exactly. And I think with the Deuce Knight thing, you don't look at this spring because we've all seen and heard. I mean, Deuce Knight has had a good spring. But you don't look at that and then readjust your game plan for him and say, oh, well, maybe he could be the starter. No. You take that as a positive and say, okay, he's ahead of schedule, which means he's going to be really good in the future. We thought he was going to be good. He's going to be really good. But don't go off your course right now. Don't go off the path of what you've planned. If it gets to that point, okay, you deal with it when it gets there, but don't change your direction just because he had a good spring. That's not the idea here. Jackson Arnold needs to be the starter. If he gets beat out or hurt or something like that, that's a different story. But don't change your plans just because Deuce Knight's had a good spring.
Yeah, look, I think Hugh Freeze has to get the Auburn football program to a place where you are not looking for saviors at quarterback. And unfortunately, that's where Auburn has been predating Hugh Freeze. Whenever they found a savior at quarterback, good God, Jacob, it's been championship time. When it clicked for Jason Campbell, undefeated. Arguably, that Auburn team changed the course of the SEC. And that's not the hyperbole, man.
I can get
That's
behind that.
yeah, right. Like they changed the course of how the BCS formula worked because no SEC team was going to be left out after that Auburn team got left out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and as a matter of fact, a couple years later, you saw your first 2-loss champion in LSU because they were like, "Hey, we can't leave the SEC out of this thing." 2010, we all know what happened. You got your savior at quarterback, undefeated, national title, Heisman statue outside. Right? 2013, you got your savior at quarterback. They were this close. Nick Marshall isn't the reason that they lost that national title game. They got gussed.
They got gussed. Yeah.
2017, Jarrett Stidham comes in, probably the best pure passer in Auburn history. They were this close. But again, they got gussed. He ran Kerryon Johnson into the ground, and he wasn't there when you needed him in that SEC championship game. But they were one game away from the college football playoff. I think they would have been the first 2-loss team to make the playoff that year. So yes, it is not a stretch to say when Auburn finds a quarterback that they have been in contention for literal championships, either going undefeated, winning Heisman's, making it all the way there, or coming up just short. So that's where Hugh Freeze has to be. Before we close the segment, we want to talk a little basketball, but first. I want to mention that this episode of the Auburn Express, powered by the Rapport, is brought to you by friends at the Vibe Vault. Jacob, if you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area ever and you're looking for a fresh cut, our friends at the Vibe Vault have you covered. Visit them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Sweet Eye in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College on Highway 431. Great members of the community. Very, very cool place to go get a haircut. It's clean. The service is great. The barbers are amazing. I'm not saying that you can get a beer while you get a haircut, but I'm not saying that you can't get a beer while you get a haircut at the Vibe Vault. You can catch them over there right next to Marco's Pizza in Phoenix City, Alabama. Also, after you get that cut, kick back and relax with our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code RAPPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. I can tell you a lot of our listeners said that the Rogue Shop got them through this tournament season. They needed a lot of Rogue Shop after that Final Four game. I was there in San Antonio. But look, however you cope, try our friends at the Rogue Shop. Also, our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. Spring is here. It's time to get outside and grill with the family, be with the ones you love, and stay in shape. The codes are here, guys. Work out, grill out, chill out with our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Great sponsors of the World Report, great members of the community. Quick news here before we get out of here. Jakai Howard has hit the portal.
Yeah.
Maybe not unexpected news for a lot of people. Your thoughts on Jakai Howard? Maybe testing it. I think the door's still open for him to come back. Maybe, but Auburn has made some notable additions to this roster. Most notably, Keyshawn Hall from UCF. Now, I do Locked On UCF. I covered Keyshawn Hall. I can tell you he is a bad mamma jamma.
He's a baller, baby.
18 points and 7 rebounds a game are not bad when you know you're losing Janai Broome. We hoped Jakai Howard would be around so we could continue to see his maturation process. But what do you think about this young man testing the portal waters?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. It wasn't unexpected, right? Nobody was shocked. This wasn't breaking news by any means. It was news that Jakai Howard entered the transfer portal. And look, it's just one of those situations where you went and got a really talented kid who has a lot of upside. He still has a ton of promise. It just didn't work here, right? There was something off. There was obviously some things that happened off the floor, and it just didn't work out. And that happens in this era. And good thing is for a kid like him, who is still so young and so raw, he has the ability to go somewhere else and see if it works out. And I hate that it's not at Auburn if he doesn't come back, which I don't think he's going to. It's just unfortunate that he didn't have a bigger role this year for Auburn or moving forward, because think about the idea of Jakai Howard and Tahad Pettiford if both were to come back. I mean, that duo could be truly incredible to watch, but it didn't work out. And I don't think there's going to be any hard feelings. I think it's a situation where you wish him nothing but the best and you move on and just count that one as a loss. And so best of wishes to him and best of luck to him. I think he's going to be a really, really good player. Go and find a coach that can mentor him a little bit and turn into what I think is a really high level prospect. But Auburn is already working in the transfer portal. You mentioned Keyshawn Hall, who is a really, really talented player who's played Power 5 basketball, and he's stepping into the SEC. He's stepping on the plains, and who knows what's going to come back for Auburn with all the eligibility things, Tahad Pettiford testing the draft waters. I mean, there's a lot of options on the table, and Auburn is hitting the portal hard. Other big names are coming. I'm telling you, Auburn's very active right now. And so it's that time of year. There's a lot of moving pieces, but Auburn's roster is going to be just fine, I think, next year.
Yeah, you mentioned Tahad Pettiford. Now, he made an announcement that he's going to test the NBA draft waters. For all our listeners, that's not dissimilar to what Janai Broom did last year, in trying to get that evaluation, see where he lands, and then make a decision about where to come back. I think Tahad Pettiford needs another year in college basketball.
I do too.
I hope he does not make the mistake of jumping too early. Extremely talented young man. Break the bank, man, to get him to come back. Now, Janai reportedly got a 7-figure deal, the largest single NIL deal in Auburn history to return to Auburn basketball. I think that this deal should be worth at least as much of that one, if not more. You've got to have continuity in today's college basketball to win consistently. And so when you get a kid like Tahad Pettiford, this is NIL. This is your chance to keep these kids around and try to kill these one-and-dones that have plagued college basketball.
Yeah, and Tahad Pettiford, I compare it to Sharif Cooper, right? A guy who was really good in college, but he got some bad info, just being honest. He got bad info going to the league. He didn't get drafted as high as he wanted to, and he hasn't been able to crack the league yet. Now, he's played very well at the lower levels and is still a very good basketball player, but I think he needed another year in college basketball as well. Tahad Pettiford falls into that category. He is very, very good. He's going to be great. But another year would do so much for him just to develop his offensive skills other than shooting the basketball. He needs to be a little better defensively, have a little bit more awareness with the basketball in his hands. And yeah, nowadays when you can make just as much, if not more money in college than you can on a rookie deal in the NBA or in the G League or overseas, why would you not want to stay and hold out and see what you can do with another year of development? And we know how good guards are into Bruce Pearl and this staff. And so I hope Tahad gets some information. I hope he gets some feedback from the NBA and takes another year in college right here on the Plains.
Absolutely. Great conversation, Jacob. Thank you for joining me today. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, Monday through Friday, 2 to 4, we go live for On the Line on ESPN 106.7. That's here in Auburn, Opelika. If you're across the state, across the country, however you want to tune in, you can do that at espnau.com. We have guests every day. We're talking Auburn football, spring game coming up, or spring practice, whatever you want to call it. We're covering that on ESPN 106.7 and espnau.com.
That's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. Guys, if you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report, every social media platform. And hit those comments after the video. Let us know, does Auburn go 6-0 in their first 6 games? 4-2, 2-4. Let us know what you think. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow with even more Auburn football talk. We're signing off, and as always,